here in Chicago for maybe like 5 days or something like that. And, initially I was driving and everything to school because, I'm just more comfortable using my car. Plus, two, I was waiting on this thing that they call a U Pass. Well, a U Pass is, I guess the U stands for university. So if you're a full-time student, through your school, you can get a U Pass, which allows you to travel via public transportation, transfer as many times as you want to. You don't have to worry about paying every single time, and it lasts for the entirety of the semester. So, waiting on my U Pass, finally get it, and I decide, you know what, I'm going to try to do a day with just public transportation because I could save on spending the $16 every time I want to go to school. Because when I park, first off, parking here is super expensive, okay? So when you park downtown, if you're there for like an hour or more, you're already at $30, which is just ridiculous, and it continues to go up. So if you're there for, I think, 4 or more hours, then you're at $50 just to park, which is completely ridiculous. So the school also validates parking. So if I get my parking validated, I only have to pay $16, which is a big savings off of like 30 or 50. So thus far, I've been paying $16 every time I go to the school, right? So I'm at school 4 times a week. So, 16 times 4, times 4 weeks, times, how many months am I? No, times 8 weeks, because I'll be here 2 months, or going to school for 2 months. So, it's a couple of hundred I could keep in my pocket by using this U Pass. So I decide that I'm gonna try it out. I leave my house at 9 o'clock. It's supposed to only take me about 25 minutes tops, to get to the school because I'm not living far. But I left my house at 9. I didn't get to school until like 10 on that. So I got so lost. And it's not like I was lost, like I knew where I was, but like I didn't know how to get where I needed to go, if that makes any sense at all. So I get on the bus, and I'm supposed to catch the bus, ride a couple of stops, get off, get on the train, the brown line, and then ride to this thing called the Merchandise Mart. And the Merchandise Mart is right across the street from my school. So I'm like, that's perfect. Like, it's super close. Get on the bus. It's super crowded on the bus. There's this man there who uses a wheelchair, and like he was kind of in the walkway more than he should have been. Like he could have really gotten closer to the side of the bus to create more walking space. So I couldn't get past him. And this is toward the front of the bus. So I couldn't get past him. So it's like a gridlock between his wheelchair and my walker. So the lady sitting down was like, honey, just sit right here. It's fine. So I sit there, but nobody now can get through because I was the first one to get on the bus. There were like 2 people behind me. So they just kind of stand there. But if anybody else gets on the bus at these next couple of stops, they're going to be looking the bus driver in her face. So next stop happens, like 5 people get on. So they telling them, like you guys need to go around and get on, at the back of the bus because you can't get through here. There's a walker and a wheelchair. Well, my mobility is so unique. So I don't really have a lot of core strength. So I have to use my hands to kind of stabilize myself. So if I'm driving or something like that, I'm usually leaning on something. Saying that to say, the lady who was sitting on my right was like, if you fold up your walker, then there could be more walking space for people to get through. So I thought about that, but if I fold up my walker doesn't stay folded. It will unfold. So I have to hold it like shut like this. And I'm like, if I do that, then I won't have the ability to like hold myself steady. So I'm gonna be doing this with the bus, like if I do that. So I was like, my walker's just gonna have to stay. Get to the next stop, more people get on the bus. So they tell him to go around. This one guy would not go around. He proceeds to try to push his way through and was like, oh, if I could just move your walker. Like nobody else thought of that. None of us thought about that. We were just gonna sit here with the walker here, even though we could move it forward. He proceeds to push my walker forcefully forward. The lady next to me, her legs are bent. She's like making faces like this, grimaces and stuff because he's hurting her. So I'm like, sir, her legs are right there. Like, could you not? So he squeezes through. I'm apologizing to the lady to my left. She's like, it's really not your fault. Don't worry about it. And she keeps giving me eyes like, can you believe you did that? Like, yikes. So I'm like so upset and my anxiety is on a million. So I'm like, I'm just gonna get off on the next stop. By the time I get off, I realize I missed my stop. So now I'm trying to figure out where I am. So I'm like, how do I get back so I can get to the brown line? So I asked this lady, long story short, I end up having to cross the street, get on that bus to go back the opposite direction, back toward my house. I finally get on the train, go one stop. Oh, so no, I get on that bus to go back, and then like I go to get on the train, and the attendant there is like, what is your card reading? So she was like, let me swipe it through this machine to see if it's, working. So she swipes it and she's like, oh, I see you have a U-Pass. And she was like, it's registered, but it's not activated. So I was like, what do you mean? So she was like, you have to call the 800 number. But because I see that it's registered, I'm going to go ahead and let you through. But later you need to call the 800 number. So in my head, I'm embarrassed because I'm like, I have had like 3 bus rides for free at this point because none of the bus drivers said anything. I don't know if they weren't paying attention, they didn't care, or because I had a disability, they were like, we just gonna let her get on because she struggles enough in life. I have no idea. So I get on the train and I huff it and puff it to class to get there right at 10 o'clock because that's when my class starts. I am burning up, y'all, because I've had like an hour of exercise this morning trying to get to class. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. It should have took me like 15, 20 minutes tops. Here it is an hour later and I'm just getting to class. But whatever, God is good. I'm glad I got there. So I called the 800 number, activate my card during my class break. When I get out of class, I'm like, okay, let me figure this out. I have to because I have to get home and I don't have my car. And I felt like, it'll be fine. You're not being rushed for anything because you're just going home. Like there's no time limit right now. So I go back to the merchandise mart where the train is, and I'm trying to figure out which train to get on because there's 2. So I could have asked the attendant. I really could have, and I should have, but I did not. So of course I get on the wrong train. So I'm riding and I'm thinking, okay, so I'm reading the little like map that's inside the train, and I'm like, okay, so in like 3 stops it should be stopping at my stop. But they had like 2 different names, so I wasn't sure. So we get to the part to the point where I think they're gonna stop at my stop, and it's a completely different stop. So I'm like, okay, this sucks. So I'm on the train. I'm like, it looks like it's going in a circle, but I'm not sure because it's called the loop, but I don't know. So I'm trying to read the map again, and I'm like, okay, if I get off on the next stop, I can switch over to the blue line, and the blue line will put me where I need to be in terms of the street that I need to get off on. And it doesn't matter at what point I get off of any type of transportation. As long as I'm on that street, I know that one bus rides that whole street down. So it doesn't matter if I ride that bus for 18 stops or 2 stops, doesn't matter. As long as I'm on that bus, I can get home. So I'm like, cool, let me just jump off real quick. So I get off, and then I transfer over so I can get to the blue line and wait for the train. So of course I have to take the elevator, and at this point I can tell you any city where the elevators don't smell like urine. I mean, not even urine, like straight up piss. And I mean, I know those words are used synonymously, but like, it's so strong and it's horrible. And I'm like, who just gets on here and urinates? Like, who does that? So it smells like straight piss on the elevator. So I'm like trying to hold my breath. The elevator is moving super slow. So I finally get down, and I'm riding with this guy who's talking to me, and he's talking to me about where he lives. He's showing me his ID. He's like talking to me about when he used to work for the Cubs and how good they were, and do I watch sports? And then he was like, what's your name again? Maria? Your name's Maria? I never told you my name, sir. That's definitely not it, but it is today. Oh yeah, my name was Maria today, okay? So I'm like, yeah, that's my name. So I'm just, talking to him kind of, but just letting him talk. So he was like, all right, Maria, have a good day when the train comes. So I was like, you too, sir, you too. So I go to get on the train, and as I go to get on, I'm like, okay, let me get on this train. So as I go to get on, people are taking their time. So there's trash like in the floor, like a bottle or something. So I'm gonna just kind of go navigate around it. But a lady sitting there wanted to move the bottle, but she was taking all day. Well, if y'all have ever ridden the trains, it's like this. Like they stop, you get on before you can get your, your heel on. They're closing the doors and they're getting ready to pull off. So I end up losing my footing and like I get stuck, and it's just sad. So I finally take a seat and like try to take a breather. Go 2 stops, get to my stop, get off. I'm like, cool, I finally made it to Chicago. Perfect. I will just go on, up to the street level and then ride the bus home. And I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I forgot that I had a disability. And I can't just hop off on any stop because all stops don't have elevators. So for those of you who don't know, public transportation, when you're riding the train, there's only certain stops that have elevators. There's only certain stops that are accessible. So if you ever encounter someone who has a disability and they're asking you how to get somewhere and they've never ridden public transportation before, remind them of that fact. I knew that, but I think in my haste and my anxious tizzy that I was in, I completely didn't even think about it. So as I get off the train and the train pulls off, I think, this stop doesn't have an elevator. So now I gotta get back on the same line, but I gotta get back on the other train to go back the opposite direction. So I'm like, I'm just gonna backtrack and go back to where I started. So I go to get on the train, okay? So as I'm trying to get on the train, I'm trying to get through, but people have their bags and stuff on the floor, which I get. So I'm trying to make eye contact with this lady, but there is this thing, and I don't know if it's because I'm in the Midwest or if people are just like this nowadays or whatever, but nobody wants to make eye contact. Like everybody's doing this. Like when you walk by them, it's all looking down to the side, up in the sky. One person definitely looked at a wall when I was walking past them, and I'm like, what's on the wall? Like, you all back here. What are we doing? Just, they don't want to make eye contact. I don't know. Maybe they're socially awkward. I'm not sure what it is. So because she's trying not to make eye contact, she doesn't realize that I'm trying to tell her your bag is in the way. So like I told you a second ago, this is how trains work. They're quick. So she's doing this because she finally realizes that I'm trying to get past her. And she's doing this as if it's making her bag smaller. Ma'am, you're not shrinking in space because you're moving your shoulders towards your ears. Like, that's not doing anything. So the man sitting next to her picks up my walker and tries to put it over her bag so that I can go in that direction to have a seat. By the time he does that and gets me uncaught on her bag, the train lurches forward. I completely lose my balance. I'm going the opposite direction, and as I fall forward, I'm thinking I'm going to lose my life on the train, and it's just going to be embarrassing. I don't know how I'm going to get up. Oh my gosh, this is just too much. So he grabs my walker and he stops it, and like all my body weight is on it, and he's like, you could tell he's putting effort into keeping it from moving. And I was like, I'm so sorry. So he was like, are you okay? So I'm like, yeah. So I'm laughing, almost like laughing to keep from crying, but like part of it was funny, but mostly it wasn't. So I know that there's a seat behind me, so I'm like, I'm just gonna sit right here. Y'all, I miscalculated. I completely miscalculated. So I'm just gonna fall back in the seat. I fall back, and there's this man sitting next to the empty seat that I was gonna sit in, and like literally on my body weight, I just drop it back because I think I'm gonna fall in the chair. Nope, I definitely fell in this man's lap. Married man's lap. He has on this ring, and I am mortified. I am sitting in some strange man's lap on the train, y'all, on the train. And I scoot over to the seat, like the empty seat, and I'm like, I am petrified. I'm like, I am so sorry, sir. Like, I am in your lap. I am so sorry. And he was like, it's really okay. Like, it's not a problem. I'm like, oh, but it is a problem. It is a problem. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe I just sat in this man's lap. Not like I did it on purpose, but you know what I'm saying. Like, oh my gosh. Even talking about it now, is like, oh my gosh. So I get up and I backtrack all the way back to the merchandise mart where I first started, and I get off of the train. So I go on one elevator and I have to like go up to a bridge. Then I get on another elevator and I go down. And then I finally see the man who's in the booth who could tell me, you know, like, how do I just get to Chicago? He was like, what you do is you take this elevator right here, you go up, there's a bridge, get on that bridge, walk to the elevator and then go down. And then on that line, you want to ride it just one more stop and Chicago is there. I'm like, are you serious? I could have stayed on the train that I was just on and just rode it down one more stop and I would have been fine. Great. So get back on the train, get across the street to get on the bus. Get on the bus. I'm asking her to make sure, can you tell me how to get to, you know, my street? Like how many stops? She's like, oh, 2 stops up. Perfect. So I tell her because I also want her to know that I need her to stop, because it was only 2 stops. She'll probably remember and just go ahead and stop without me pulling a little, you know, stop signaling her to stop. So I go to get off the bus, but when I go to get off the bus, I'm going through the front door, but there's like mad people coming in the front way. So I was like, you know what? Let me just go out the back door. Get to the back door, the door is closed. I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot go anywhere else. This is my stop. I'm trying to get home. So the man behind me pushes on the door, is like, see this where it says push to open? Like, you need to push that. So he pushes it open. I go to get off, and then I realize she's parked kind of like cattywampus, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's at a diagonal. So the front end, like the front door is lined up with the curb, but the back end is completely not. So I get off and it's a huge step down and I'm like, oh my God, I can't fall. So step down / jump down because I'm super short. And then I hear them telling her to kind of like, wait, like don't pull off. Because if she had pulled off, I would have been underneath her back tire because I was right there by the back tire. So then I had to get on the sidewalk and everything. But anyway, I finally got home in one piece. But like, this occasion definitely called for a drink and definitely some dessert, okay? Because I was struggling, okay? I feel like I saw my life flash before my eyes twice on the train. I'm completely mortified. I'm in a situation now where I'm like, you know what? I'll figure it out. Like, I can pay $16 every time I park. It's fine. It's fine. And to make it worth it, I might even decide to stay at the school for long periods of time and study and things like that. You know, like I spent the whole day here, so it's worth the $16. I don't know. But right now, me and public transportation, Yeah, no, I'm done. You know, I'm really finished. And to be honest, like when I did my internship in DC and I was traveling between DC, Maryland, and Virginia on the metro, I didn't have this issue. So a friend of mine pointed out that when I was up there, I was using a motorized chair. And she was like, you know, to be honest, I think that people probably move out of the way, you know, when you're in a motorized chair, because it's either like move or get hit. But and then 2, in the chair, you don't realize as much when you might knock into something or bump into something. But with my walker, because I'm facing forward, I can see everything, like the surrounding perimeter around my walker. It's like I can tell when I'm bumping into someone, something, and people don't move. And I think too, because they don't see me as a threat because it's a walker. So it's kind of like, yeah, it'll be fine. I don't know. But I'm just like, is the metro, like rail system and buses, are they bigger, like wider? Because these Chicago trains and buses, they seem kind of narrow. Like there's no space. I'm like, this is not accessible, like at all. Like it is, but it isn't. You know, like they have some qualifications for it to be accessible. Like it lowers, it has a ramp, they have a space for somebody in a wheelchair who uses a wheelchair to come on the bus and have a designated spot. Just one space. God forbid, I don't know, 2 people who use wheelchairs happen to need the same bus at the same day at the same time. But it's like kind of like almost maybe accessible, and then but not really. So I don't know. Maybe I just have real fond memories of the metro and not so much fond memories of where I am currently. I don't know. But what I do know is that I'm probably gonna be mortified for a little while. I don't know. The more I talk about it, the more some of it is laughable, like me falling in that man's lap. Oh my God. I know he was probably thinking, what is this girl doing? All I know is that I may need another drink after this, and I just woosah. Breathing exercises are in order. But right now I'm pretty much sworn off of public transportation. But if you're out there and use public transportation and you see somebody who has a disability and they're struggling, like, just know, you know, that might not be their first struggle of the day. Like, this could be a day-long thing where they're like legit struggling. Like, these are some of the things that you have to deal with, you know, like when you have a disability. There's so many different things to consider, especially that whole every stop doesn't have an elevator. I mean, why is it that because I have a disability I have to go around the way to get to where I need to go? And it just makes it that much harder. I mean, in a sense, life is hard enough as it is, I think, for everybody. But when you have a disability, it's even that much harder because there's so many things that you don't have any control over that just are not accessible for you. The world, it does not feel accessible at all when you have a disability. And I think that's what makes it really hard for me being up here in Chicago too. It's just a reminder of the difficulties that I experienced. Like, I think being in Atlanta for so long, I've already done this legwork of what will work and what won't work for me. And I've gone through that awkward phase of trying to figure out what's accessible and what's not, what I can and can't handle. And now I'm having to go through it again. And it's just, I'm older and the learning curve, it seems that much steeper. And it's stressful, but you live and you learn, you know, so onward to, I guess, new adventures in the city, but not on the train and definitely not on the bus. I'm done with public transportation, yeah.